Welcome back to Beast Wars Wednesday! He's your host, Decepticon Doug.
And here's your host, Predacon Paul.
Today, we are talking about an episode that has nothing to do with spiders, thank God.
Very little to do. So today we're talking about Call of the Wild, directed by Jonathan Goodwill and written by Bob Forward.
Okay, so Call of the Wild begins with a cheetah chasing a gazelle.
And so he's chasing it, and then all of a sudden the ground breaks apart, and the cheetah falls in there, and then it's just Cheetor having a dream. He's like, what?
Their base is rocking because they're being shot at. It starts and you're in the thick of it, and I love that about this episode.
The Maximal base is under attack. Full-scale assault. All the Predacons are there. Well, actually, not Black Arachne or Inferno. I don't know where they're at. They're having a little picnic elsewhere.
Cheetor jumps into the base. He's like, I'm ready. What am I going to do?
The Cheetor and Dynamite go out to fight the fight. The Predacons have already gotten through an auto gun. There's a bit of a battle between Scorponok and Tarantulas and Cheetor and Dinobot. And Megatron, he gets his nice big cannon in his mouth. Well, not his mouth, but, his mouth. Yeah, mouth. And shoots a big missile. With the shields down and the guns disabled, Waspinator and Pterosaur land on top of the Maximal base and pull out...
The Reclamator thingamadoo.
Yeah, the
Rectifier coil.
Yeah.
That device.
They start flying away. Optimus chases them. Megatron gets a shot on Optimus. Optimus is always getting shot at this guy. It's his thing. Air-Razor's come in. She's coming for the other direction. And so she goes in to catch Optimus, but she gets hit in the back as well. She saves him from smacking his face into the ground below. But she must have taken a heavier hit than him because she's down for the count.
Then again, she's not as durable as Optimus, though.
I get the feeling that Optimus's jetpack is a lot more separate from him. Mm-hmm. So if he gets hit in the jetpack, it doesn't do much to actually damage his internal...
Her thrusters are like right up against her lats.
Megatron calls for a retreat. So the Maximals get Air-Razor back into the base, into the CR chamber. They're like, it's going to be a few days. It's just a bad hit.
All of a sudden, an energon buildup and surge happens to them while they're in the base. They're sitting there literally like this having a conversation. What the cheese?
We're in the base, though. We're in the base.
And then they go into beast mode. They have to exist in beast mode even while they're inside the base, which makes things problematic because they've got tiny, stubby little fingers and arms.
I mean, in Rhinox's case, he can't do anything, basically. He
can stomp and, throw tables.
Basically, what the Pterosaur and Waspinator made off with was the field dampeners or something like that?
It's Rectifier coil.
It's a device that works that creates a field that keeps Energon from entering. So next we get a really, really great scene where Megatron calls a team meeting to gloat.
He's like, I'm sure you guys have already heard this plan because I talked about it before.
But here's the deal. We stole the device. Now their beast modes are going to take over. I am a genius. Scorponok, you're an idiot.
Whoa! Whoa!
Everyone, I'm awesome. That's exactly how it went.
Mm-hmm. And he even prompts them for a laugh. Yeah, basically. Meanwhile, at the Maximal base, it's been a few days. The Predacons have been shaking them up a bit by attacking every now and then. Just little attacks.
2 days.
Little tiny attacks. Boom, 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 boom.
Basically keeping them from getting any sleep.
They've been in beast mode for so long that they're starting to take on the characteristics of their beast forms. Like, Optimus is a little more like, Ooga Chaga.
Optimus, wakes up from his dream, and they're under attack, and he's like, enemy! He's like, his sentences are more rudimentary, like an animal reacting to, enemy, and it's more of an instinctual thing instead of him assessing the situation. It's more of a reaction. They all fall asleep.
They start dreaming dreams that in their beast mode, and Optimus is having a dream where he's in the wild, and all of the Maximals start to wake up from their dreams. They're completely overtaken by their beast modes. Now, they are not in their right frame of mind. There's no Maximal left. It's like they're just animals. And they find their way out of the base and start running into the wilderness that's right outside their base all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Yeah, the jungle wasn't there before. Now, Megatron surmised that this would happen. He made this a whole event. He invited everyone he knew. They made it public on Facebook and everything. Black Arachne is banging a drum and gave himself a big chair. Okay, I see Scorpor not carrying it. I don't know how he managed to get Tarantulas to carry it. I guess maybe that was his punishment for what happened in Spider's game.
I was thinking that same thing.
Megatron sees Optimus up a tree. He's like, finally, this is gonna be beautiful. I'm gonna kill him right now. Kablam. He misses, though, because, as dramatic as it looked before the commercial break, afterward, Optimus managed to jump out of the way. Megatron's like, okay, Flyers, kill everybody else. Scorponok, Tarantulas, Take me to Optimus. Let's keep going. Tigatron is in the Maximal base because he finally got a message saying like, hey, we're having problems here. Can you come help us out?
Airazor jumps out of the CR tank. There's a problem with their beast forms, yo. And she was like, yo.
So Tigatron goes out to help his Maximal friends, and Airazor goes all the way over to the Predacon base. There's automatic defenses, but she's like, hey, time for me to show off my skills. So she does this cool swoop thing and manages to get through the defenses just through sheer speed. Megatron, bless his heart, decided to put the device on a table, well lit, basically as if it was a trophy. And she's like, well, don't tell me you didn't put in a booby trap. Then comes out the little gun, and honestly, Megatron could have tried a little harder than that. Airazor manages to get the device and heads back to the Maximal base. Meanwhile, Tigatron starts getting together all of the other Maximals by going... What he said. Even Optimus, who, tries to do his gorilla thing and lay down the law, he goes... But ultimately, Tigatron has the last word in that conversation. And then he accesses their programming and is able to talk to them sort of on this.
He's definitely talking to the subconscious side. So he's talking to the part of them that's still robot that's fighting against the beast mode. So they're still able to hear it.
He manages to get their subconscious to delete the program block so that the beast mode and the robot mode can coexist peacefully, and then they can slag some butt.
Yeah, there won't be a beast war happening on the inside.
The Maximals go off to counterattack the Predacons, this time embracing their beast forms to help them in their battle. Rhinox picking up a tree like a rhinoceros really would to hit Waspinator.
Throwing Rat Trap,
Yeah.
and him rolling like a rat would.
Yeah.
Because a rat would do the link roll between Ganon's legs and then turn around and hit his tail with a sword.
Actually, Dinobot does a very Velociraptor thing. Gets Black Arachnia right with the claws.
And stomps her face.
That was awesome.
Hey, she had it coming. She kicked him in the head.
True, back in the probe. This is payback. Naturally, Optimus takes on Megatron by going, whoa!
The Maximals took them by surprise completely. Caught them completely off guard, and then the fact that they started to get an energon surge won the day.
So take that, Megs. Predacons retreat, naturally. They all scuttle off into the forest. Airazor shows up. She goes, ah!
She goes,
That's what I meant to say. Sorry, everybody. Rhinox says, I guess everything's going to be back to normal. And Optimus is like, oh, ho, ho. It's going to be even better. He's watched a lot of King Kong movies, so.
They're a hit on Cybertron.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, especially Mecha Kong versus Mecha Godzilla.
That'd be a pretty sweet fight.
I would watch that if I was on Cybertron, 100%. I would watch that if I was on Earth. Why haven't I watched that? Let's go watch that sometime. The end.
What worked for you, Doug?
I thought it was kind of a fun concept, that it was this chance for us to play around more with the fact that they are in beast forms. It seems like sometimes that aspect of the show gets sidelined, the fact that they turn into animals. Which is good, because sometimes, it's better to just focus on the story. But to have a story built around the fact that they can transform into animals and, justify the fact that that's sort of what the initial concept of the series was supposed to be. Yeah, this was a good chance to kind of play around with that idea and to do something different with it. It's not just about we just transform for the sake of preventing energon damage. Now there's a bit of a story about the fact that they have these different animal forms and those come with specific characteristics.
Well, unlike in G1 where it's like, oh, I'm a car, oh, I'm a minivan, I'm a truck. They all do the same thing, and that is drive in a straight line.
It's a way to get from point A to point B on wheels instead of on foot.
The fact that they're all different types of beasts, it was just begging for a story like this to come out. Because usually it's like, oh, beast mode and then run. You see that at the end of this episode, as soon as the energon surge happens, Megatron feels he's lost the advantage and then he runs away. Because the Maximals have embraced their beast form, and now they're a legitimate threat in their beast form, whereas the Predacons, to them, they're still relying on the robot mode to give them an edge. What else worked for you?
I think, again, this is a good bit of a character arc for both Airazor and Tigatron.
Yes.
Airazor is just used very well in this episode. She just proves again to be kind of a very formidable player for the Maximals. She saves Optimus's butt.
She overcomes the Predacon base defenses like it was nothing. I think she gets a gold star in this episode. At first glance, give it to Tigatron because of how essential he was to them developing past this block and this beast form, like lockage or whatever they're in. But Airazor has proven herself several times, and in this episode, a good couple of times to be, like you said the first time we saw her, a force to be reckoned with. She gets a gold frickin' star, yo.
It's interesting that Tigertron, it feels like a pretty good episode for him, even though he's actually not in it very much. He kind of appears in the third act to help resolve the issue, but at the same time, the setup of his character almost throughout the series, it was like the perfect setup for him to be the one to solve the problem.
Oh yeah. In fact, I actually just thought of something. It's not outside the realm of possibility that, you know, those times when there's big skirmishes going on where we joke about Tigertron having a sick day?
Yeah.
Well, what if there was like a good couple of months there where he was stuck in tiger form until finally he was able to, through sheer force of will, overcome the blockage and just decide, okay, I need to get rid of this and just embrace this beast form and then allow that in my maximal side to work as a cohesive unit.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, is that it seems like this story was almost kind of inevitable down the road. Like, it had to happen in some way just to address the beast forms, to address Tigertron and his strengths as kind of like a solo Maximal. It's nice that his story arc is kind of like starting to pay off. I mean, we've had a few issues with Tigertron in the past, particularly in the Trigger and stuff like that.
And in Spider's game, he gets in way over his head. He has a character growth moment where he realizes perhaps he's not the space ninja he thought he was.
He starts to become more of a team player and really helps the Maximals when they need him. And that's something I really appreciate about this story, is to see that sort of come to fruition. What about this episode did you really like?
This episode as a whole just really worked. Actually, it felt like it went by so fast.
Yeah, it was very quick. It feels really fast.
I think that's because they focused on one thing. It wasn't the Maximals, it wasn't the Predacons, it was the beast form itself. Rat Trap even says in the very beginning of the episode, he can't stop complaining about the beast form and how inconvenient it is, and oh man, my stubby arms and all this stuff. And then in the end, he's the one who goes, okay, I'm a rat and I'm a robot, I'm a rat and a robot. I'm both, right? And then he embraces that. And I think that's the overall message of the episode. Is this thing that we're dealing with right now actually that big of a problem? Or is it actually a blessing in disguise?
You know, I never thought about that. The focus of the episode is the beast forms. There isn't a clear protagonist. Mm-hmm. There isn't a main character to kind of focus on. There's this more overarching issue.
Yeah, there's an obstacle. And what Tigertron did was he took that obstacle, turned it into an opportunity to give them the ability to get the drop on the Preds. And now they have something that the Predacons don't, and that's an ability to be effective in combat by utilizing both their beast forms and their robot forms in unison. Okay, I have two complaints. They're more technical issues than formula or story issue. Megatron figures that the combination of maximal programming plus sleep depravity and being stuck in the beast mode would lead to this eventuality, right? Mm-hmm. The beast mode taking over. Even though Dinobot's activation code is a maximal code, he himself, and this is something that we've addressed several times, the show addresses several times, mm-hmm. is still a Predacon. And yet the outcome of Megatron's plan still happens exactly the same as the Maximals. The solution is the exact same as well. It would have been interesting
if somehow we were able to incorporate the fact that Dinobot was different in the story. If they addressed that differently, like if him and Ares traded places and he had to be the one who's in the repair chamber, or like the Predacons had to take him out separately. Just something like that to address the fact that his programming is different.
Although Megatron, while he is a brilliant tactician, has been known to be a little too full of himself. Like, if anything, this shows that they're just as vulnerable to being sleep deprived and being stuck in their beast forms.
That's true.
As the Maximals are.
Yeah, Megatron words it as if it's a maximal problem. But clearly it's actually a Transformer problem.
Yeah.
Maybe Maximals and Predacons aren't so different after all.
Second thing that bugs me about this episode. When Cheetor wakes up, Sentinel is already disabled. The shields have already collapsed, which then makes it easy for the Predacons to then take out the autoguns and then break into the roof hatch. The episode of Better Mousetrap, if you remember that one, it shows, I believe it's Dinobot with his eye lasers, and those pack a punch. Mm-hmm. You've got Rhinox with twin chain guns, Cheetor's energy blaster. That thing packs a bit of a wallop too. All three of them shooting at the base for what seemed like, an eternity, and the shields weren't affected at all.
And all of a sudden in this episode, the Predacons seem to break through the shields pretty easily.
Yeah,
but before Cheetor even wakes up.
In the time it takes him to go from his quarters to the bridge, which is like right down the hall, the shields are gone. Did the writers just forget that they have shields?
it does seem pretty convenient.
The Maximals, when they're inside their base or outside their base, that shield is always up. I mean, why would you have your base just sitting there, a giant target?
If they're going to attack, they're going to try and make it a surprise attack. They're not going to, like, announce, like, have your shields up by 3 o'clock. We're coming around then.
No, 3:15.
Yeah, we might be a little late.
Is lounging in his tree again.
Yeah, we gotta find Waspinator's tree. See, that's the thing, is that continuity. They, you know, if you create certain rules earlier in the series, you gotta follow those rules. And you know, generally speaking, the writers are very good at that. They're very good at it, sort of working with pre-established conditions.
Yeah.
But I do feel like the maximal defenses are kind of often flexible depending on how powerful they want the Predacons to be in that episode.
Beast Wars isn't the only show that has that issue. I am a huge fan of Star Trek, as I don't know if you know that, and they have consistency problems all the time.
Oh yeah, Star Trek continuity is a mess.
It comes with having new writers every week, right?
Yeah, exactly.
One way I could rationalize the shields maybe going down that quickly would be the fact that it was a sustained barrage from Scorponok, whose missiles have been shown to have varying degrees of power. Sometimes they're sort of like a mid-ranged powered weapon, and other times they pack such a punch that they can disable Dinobot. And then you've also got Megatron with those missiles. Who knows how many missiles he hit the base with. But other than that, I don't have a problem with this episode.
For this to be the next episode after they introduced Inferno, it seems like they didn't actually know what to do with him. So he basically did nothing. He flew around and he shot things. But I guess, you know, most of the Predacons were kind of sidelined. But I would have liked to see him at least like get a line or do something like in character. I just can't get over the fact that suddenly there's a whole jungle right beside the Maximal base. It's like, wait a minute, like, what about the waterfall? the waterfall and the bridge and everything like that. Like, that's been the geography for the whole series. You can't just not have that. It's just one of those things where it's again like, hey man, like use your continuity. I understand that it was the sort of the most convenient thing for the story, but there must have been another way around it. I don't know.
All right, after much deliberation, we're going to give this one 4.5 out of 5 delicious baby Parasaurolophus.
That is delicious Velociraptor munchins in Dreamland, for sure.
This feels like a good, complete story. There doesn't really feel like there's any missing elements. The only gripes that we really have with it are the continuity issues with the series, but we don't really feel that it hinders the story.
There's a cool kind of subtext to the actual story that kind of elevates the material a little bit above and beyond the surface story. Yeah.
The overall message of this episode is that sometimes obstacles are opportunities in disguise. This episode spells it out in such a fun and interesting way.
You can sort of see the beast modes as sort of like maybe people's more emotional sides or something like that. Like to not block those out or they wind up becoming problems, but rather to embrace them as they come to you, that kind of thing. You've
got your logic side and you've got your emotional side. When they work together in perfect harmony, you get Linkin Park. And that is the reason why I give it like the 0.5. I think that extra little bit.
So, what are your thoughts on Call of the Wild? Do you think that this is a great episode? Do you think that Tigertron grrrs too much? Or, you know, just let us know in the comments. Please like, give us a thumbs up. Please subscribe. Please share with all of your friends. And
tell your mom. For God's sake, tell your mom. Just... Some of you might be wondering why there's so much Halo here. It's because I love Halo. Get over it.
That's essentially it, yeah.